Hello and welcome. I'm Don Woolley, your host for Four Men in America, coming to you from Free Florida. In a few minutes, I will be joined on Zoom by Paul Fitch, Jeff Hooch, and Bobby Wilson, all from Southern Arizona. Our goal is to inform you about current events, news, and politics around the world, in the U.S., in our own and your states, and perhaps even events happening in your local area. There's so much going on right now, and we hope you will join us every Friday and hear what we have to say about our country and the world, and perhaps offer some new insight and solutions. You can watch the program on the YouTube Sack Pack Don Woolley channel or on the Rumble channel DWoolley13. Look for the Florida U.S. flag logo. Now let's get started with today's show. Hillsdale, I don't know if you got a chance to watch
I did not. No. Can you
Well,
give me an overview?
Well,
I
it was
didn't
just
get a
really
chance.
good because one of the points he brought up was that early in his talk was that the FBI is not in the Constitution.
Right.
There's nothing
Sure.
in the Constitution about a federal police force.
Right.
That was the first point he made. So I thought you'd find that really interesting.
Well, that's right. I mean, look, our policing is different and for a reason
Yeah,
in this country.
exactly.
We don't want it consolidated. We want it spread out. And sheriffs who know that are a blessing to our nation.
Yeah, aren't they?
you
Yeah,
know,
absolutely.
and local police too,
Oh,
local.
yeah, sure. Yeah, we had DeSantis had a big news conference this morning here in Florida about police, local police, sheriffs, and he has actually fired a couple of local DAs, state DAs,
Right.
because they weren't enforcing the law, and he replaced them. And one of them was down in the Tampa area in Hillsborough County, and then then there was another one in the state, and so they.
Well, I knew that happened a few years ago. I didn't hear of anything recent.
Yeah, it's happened within the last couple of years, but
Yeah.
they're kind
Yeah.
of reporting on it now because these two new people that he appointed to replace him are reporting on their new crime statistics for their areas, and
Yeah. No,
and
they
how,
need
how
to.
yeah, crime is going down, and
Yeah, isn't that great?
yeah. Okay, let's let in a couple of folks here.
And I've got till probably 3:45, 10 to 4-ish, just so you know,
Okay,
Don.
that's good. What's we planning? Hi, Bobby.
Hey, hello everybody.
How are you,
Bobby?
sir? Back from Vegas. How was Vegas?
You still have
Yeah,
a
yeah.
shirt, I see. You
Did you
still
come
have
back
a
on the
Yeah.
bus, or
shirt.
did you bring your car back?
No, we flew out there and flew back.
Oh, you flew. Okay, well, that's good.
Yeah, it was a very short trip.
Oh, well, that's all right. You went to see your kids, right?
Yeah, Las Vegas was packed, elbow to elbow. We were there on a Tuesday and Wednesday, and it came back Thursday, and the place was just packed.
Really?
Sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
All the casinos and all the streets, and it was hot as the dickens. It was probably about 105, 6 degrees.
Was there a convention going on or something going on besides?
No, Eileen said it was because it was the last week or two before school started on the East Coast, and there was a lot of people there with their children. We saw a lot of children on the street.
Oh, wow. Okay, interesting. Yeah, because so many schools now go back to school before Labor Day,
Yes, they do in Arizona, but
Yeah.
Eileen was telling me that on the East Coast they all start in September.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We, when I was a young grade schooler, we always got out 1st of June and didn't go back till after Labor Day.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Right. Yeah.
And it didn't matter about all that. We didn't have anything like snow days or any of that stuff.
no.
Snow days didn't matter. You just, you went to school and that was
No, we
it.
didn't have any COVID back in those days either.
Right, yeah. So Paul's joined us. Hi, Paul.
Howdy,
How are you?
I'm fine. I just trying to find a TV that worked, and this is the one.
Oh, good. Okay. That's great. So we got everybody here today. So tell me what's been going on in your state this week, or your area, or your city. Something that something that caught your eye, or if anything. And you guys can take it away. I'll let Jeff go first.
Well, you know what's interesting? We do have a lot of focus on national politics right now
Right.
at every level. And that's really important, but I think we can't forget the local, races, because those are going to impact us also. And it really is I think, how we can make individually our biggest splash is in local politics. Now, we're concerned about the federal government, and because it has become the Leviathan that's taken over most. And it wasn't, the founders did not want that to be. And the ship of state should not vacillate so much between who's in charge, but that's a fact, it does. But we really cannot forget about the local, we've got a local lady running for sheriff. We really need to get that tidied up here in Pima County. We need to make sure we support our local, congressmen that are back in DC, but also not forget about the state representatives that are going to be going to Phoenix, whether in the House or the Senate, and all those local, I think elections are very important. So
Yeah,
that's what I've been thinking about.
You've only got a one-seat majority in both the House and the
Yes.
Senate, right, in
Yeah.
Arizona. I mean,
Yeah.
it's razor thin. So,
And we lost the governorship, so that doesn't help.
yeah, and the Secretary of State.
Yes.
Yeah. So who's
And
running
the
for
VP.
Secretary of State on the Republican side?
On the Republican side, well,
Last time it was Mark Fincham.
Mark Fincham, yeah, he's running now for state Senate.
Right. He ran against Ken Bennett up in the Prescott area, which kind of surprised me. Did he move up there? Because that's not.
He did. He moved up there. Mark's
Yeah.
a friend. He's up there.
Mhm.
But oh gosh, I know the name, but I can't think of her right now. I think it's a lady running on the Republican side right now.
It's not. What office is or what is Debbie Lesko is not going back to Congress? What is she going to be doing? She's running for.
That's a
something.
good question.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look that up.
Okay, Paul.
I
Anything going on that you like to bring to our attention?
no, but I was trying to think of something I read the other day. It's a book called something of the Lesser Magistrates. Has anybody heard of that?
No, I haven't.
The Power of the Lesser Magistrates, or the something of the Lesser Magistrates. And what it boils down to is how like Jeff was saying, we need to work this from the bottom up. It gives us examples of how kings were persuaded to change policy because the barons told them to, like the Magna Carta. The barons told the king, you can't do this anymore. And anyway, so the point is that if we get the right people in at the bottom, they can work their way up and influence as they go up to create the effect we need in the senior servant area.
Good. Sounds like a good point. So how about you, Bobby? Anything happened since you got back and you want to bring attention to?
The big news on the local TV and so forth has been that Trump and Harris have both been in and out of Glendale, Arizona, politicking. And
who had the biggest crowd?
Oh, there's no question that Trump
Yeah.
had the biggest.
Yeah, they don't seem. I read the Arizona Republic. They don't seem to want to admit that.
No, they don't. What was amusing about it is that Eileen and I got invitations to meet Trump, but would you believe that was the same day that we were in Las Vegas?
Oh man, you guys
And
blew it.
yeah, and so we were just sick. And
Well,
Eileen,
I told you not to go.
I know, the timing was just terrible. And anyway, so, uh, but we had, two or three friends, the chairman of the Pima County Republican, committee is Dave, Smith, and he's a good friend of ours, and he and his wife, got to meet with President Trump, and they were excited about that.
Oh, I bet.
And Trump went down to Sierra Vista, which is close to the border, for
Right.
to talk to the folks down there, and had a big turnout.
Mm-hmm.
They tried to pump up Harris's appearance in Glendale, but it was kind of misleading as to how many people were there, and how many people were actually hired to be there.
I know somebody sent out an email that had a picture of a want ad that they
They
that
did.
yeah,
They
they put
had
out
it.
to hire people to come.
They
Yeah.
they had an ad in the Arizona, Republic newspaper for actors, for part-time work. And as it turns out, depending on who you talk to, those were actually, advertisements for people to be paid to attend Harris's, reception.
Oh,
And,
gosh.
you know,
There you go.
yeah, there you go. So that's the new world we live in. But basically, that's really what's been going on in Arizona. And I agree 100% with Jeff that the local elections are extremely important. The young lady that's running for sheriff, Heather,
Yeah.
I think
Lakin.
she can win that. I think she's got a very good chance. She's a captain in the sheriff's office now, and she is, very astute, and I think she can pull it off. I think she can win that. And there's some other local races of, that are very, very close. So we'll see how they all work out.
Good. Very good. So,
Yeah,
so
I'd really liked, we had some great candidates for sheriff this year. You know, the Republican side was 3 deep. We hosted a debate between them at my Constitution group. And I got to tell you, we would be lucky to have any one of them. But Sheriff Lakin, she would be, did such a great job.
Yeah.
And so did the others, but I think we'd be well served by her if she can get in. And I do think she's got a good chance.
has she been in Pima County Sheriff for a long time?
Yes.
He
Yes.
has.
21 years.
So she
21
worked.
years.
So she worked for Napier then.
Yes.
And some others. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, she hung in there. So I know that we're familiar with the current sheriff and the sheriff before the last sheriff, and it was the same guy. And,
Yeah.
he's not. I don't know how you guys feel about him, but he's.
Okay.
I don't know what kind of job he's done, but people happy with the with the crime in Pima County, or do they report on any crime stats, or do you know?
Well, look, the sheriff's deputies that I know are more of the conservative side,
Yeah.
right? And also, you know, Tucson Police Department.
Right.
So
They just do their
Tucson
job.
Police Department, believe it or, you know, they are very happy. The people I know with the changes of the police chief,
Yeah.
and very happy with those changes. I think we're well served, but you know, they're still down on recruiting, and we need to find ways to get and recruit more police officers.
Right. As are many police forces. Yeah.
Right, as are many.
Yeah.
But the guys that are out there working, boy, they do such a good job. I mean, they really do. But we've got to support them. You know, we know that the morale went down so much that it's just the nature of the beast. I'm not picking on Tucson police officers, but nationwide, instead of a lot of these police officers, you know, being proactive, you know, you're just going to be reactive. It's kind of like, look, if no good deed goes unpunished, why am I doing the good deeds?
Yeah, that's right.
Why am I going to put myself, and that's not with everybody, but that's a natural human reaction.
Sure.
And so.
Well, there are several places in the country that actually did defund the police and
Yeah,
are
now
not,
they're
not letting them do their jobs.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, and it's not an easy job to do.
No, but a lot of them are also trying to turn around that.
Yeah,
You
true.
have places like Minneapolis and others that I think swung the pendulum so far to one side,
Who is it?
you
Republican?
know, it's
Oh.
just bad.
It's not until 2 more years.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Well, so did you guys look up, see who's running for Secretary of State?
I'm looking, yes, right
Well,
now. I'm looking, but
We don't
I
have
wasn't so
anybody running
fast.
for Secretary of State.
That's
What's
2
that?
years, that's 2 years from now.
Oh, nobody running this year?
Oh,
No.
there you go.
Mm.
There
That's
you
why
go.
we don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not, they come up
Well,
when the
that makes
governor comes
sense.
up, right? Yeah,
That makes sense because
Yeah, that's
Finch
a
was
four
running
year-
2 years ago.
yeah,
It's a 4-year term.
So that was a trick question, Don.
yeah, I guess so.
I was like, okay, I feel a little better now. It's like, okay, now.
It was actually, it was a dumb question, but trick is okay.
Trick questions
I'll
like,
take
okay.
trick. So have you guys had a chance to, we've got Paul back with us now. He went off for a couple minutes. It looks like your picture and everything are good. Is the audio okay, Paul?
Yeah, I'm fine. I just
All right.
had a glitch.
Yeah. So, I don't know if you've all had a chance to, look at what's been happening in the Middle East in the last few days. You may have heard about the big Israeli, preemptive strike that they pulled off over the weekend. And there's a lot of discussion about that now. So, are you guys hearing any scuttlebutt, any talk? Have you seen or heard anything in your areas or watching the news or anything else that you want to bring to our attention? I've read a lot of stuff and listened to a lot of stuff, so I'll let you guys go first.
Well, I just know back originally on October 7th, almost a year ago now, Facebook was blowing up, a lot of things were happening and a lot of arm wrestling between, different factions. I don't see that as much right now on Facebook, but I'm also, to be honest, shocked that we as a nation and as a people aren't more vociferously coming out on the side of Israel. And it really shows the degradation of our morals and education that if you've got, and this goes on even the conservative or libertarian side, that you have a lot of even, semi-conservative voices that, and maybe they're not, that we wouldn't consider them, but certainly libertarian voices that are trying to understand and empathize with what Hamas did on October 7th, 2023, and handcuff the Israeli state from doing what they need to do. And we've already hurt them as a nation by not 100% backing them, because lives would be saved if they would have it's just ripping off the Band-Aid, right? You want to save people's lives, but I think in the long run, the way that we have not supported them wholeheartedly and tried to play both sides of the fence here and come at them, at least from the Biden administration, has certainly hurt them. I think it's hurt us with our allies around the world. And it showed to many of the countries in the Middle East how lukewarm we are and that maybe we're not the best people to ally with. So it's hard for me to understand, and I'm absolutely on the side of Israel on this, and not that it's a black and white total issue. There's gray areas, but I spent 2 months re-engaging in this issue a year ago to make sure that opinion is well founded, and I wholeheartedly believe it is.
Yeah, I think I have been reading and looking and watching a lot of stuff out of Israel, looking at the Jerusalem Post. There's also a really good YouTube website that I tried to send to you guys in an email, that these two guys, one guy's in Israel, the other one's in Washington, D.C., and they kind of get into a discussion about Israel. One of the interesting things they said is that even the Jerusalem press corps, or the Israeli press corps, is anti-Netanyahu. They have we've got Trump derangement syndrome, they've got Bibi derangement syndrome over there. So they don't have much good to say about him. But the people are, it appears the majority of the Israeli people are behind him 100%.
So is the press over there then, Don? Is it your perspective the press is using this war to try to get him out in a power play? Or are they not thinking he's prosecuting the war appropriately? Or
I think it's probably more toward the power play than the prosecution of the war.
Yeah.
And I think that's
terrible.
I think that's kind of fed by the Biden administration,
Right.
because, Biden
Yeah.
does not like Netanyahu.
Right.
So,
But instead of doing what's best for their country and ours, we're
Right.
playing politics.
and then you read a lot of the details about the war, like how Hamas plants mines all over Gaza City, right? How they got mines everywhere. The mines have been stepped on by kids. They've been stepped on by medical people. They've had ambulances and first responders drive their vehicles over mines and killed. I mean, they've just got them everywhere. So they have to clean all that stuff out when they go in. Now, they did rescue, I don't know if you saw, they rescued a guy
Yes.
just in the last couple days, and he appeared to be in pretty good health, but found
Right.
him in one of the tunnels, and we got some kind of intelligence on that.
Well, and he was a Muslim himself,
Yeah, yeah,
from what I understand.
right. So perhaps he had been treated better than some of the other prisoners. Who knows, right? Who knows
Yeah.
how they're treating the Jewish prisoners and the Americans. But just because we have Americans there, and I don't know if they're alive or not, but you would think that would excite our administration enough to help Israel do the right things and get our people out, right?
Well,
But wouldn't they have to be LGBTQ basketball players before our government would do anything for them?
Yeah, and a WNBA player.
Yeah.
but what is really concerning is, where's really the upheaval from the American public?
Right,
That, I mean, we have hostages over there.
right.
Thank
We
you.
know it. I mean, do we have to wait for the media to tell us to get angry and to demand that we go in and get them?
Yeah.
I mean, we're smart enough to understand we're led around by the noses, and we could easily take the nose ring off and start to take things into our own hands. And yet, if somebody else doesn't make a big deal out of it, we just seem to lay down and not make a big deal out of it.
Mhm.
So it's, I don't get it. I don't know why there isn't more demands that, hey, there, even if you are pro-Hamas and you're an American citizen, your position could be, hey, that's fine. That's between you and Israel. But if they're American citizens, even if they're dual citizens, you're going to let them go right now,
Right.
or face consequences. But I've seen none of that.
Well, you have your American president. When you're out of the country, when I've been out of the country, if we had somebody like Ronald Reagan in the presidency, you always felt like if something happened to me when I'm in this other country, something bad, and for some reason, you always felt like that guy would make sure that they came and helped you or got you out, right?
Right.
They wouldn't hesitate to do that. And now you've actually got people there that if it isn't the person they really care about or want, it doesn't matter to them. We had that journalist, and I can't think of his name right now, but he was in a Ukrainian prison, and they wouldn't let him out, and he died in prison, and we never said anything about it to Zelensky or anybody else. It was just pathetic. He was an American journalist, and he was just reporting his side of the Ukrainian-Russian war. And it was.
Was that in a Ukrainian prison or a Russian?
No, It was a Ukrainian prison. He was being held in a Ukrainian prison. He was arrested in Ukraine. And I think he died of pneumonia or something like that. But anyway, yeah, if it's not the right person there, you know, the administration doesn't think anything about it. Now, as far as Americans go, you know, our policy should always be you never leave an American behind, whether it's a troopers or soldiers or whatever. American citizens, you don't leave them behind. So, you know,
That changed 3 years ago, a couple days ago,
oh yeah, yeah,
in a big way.
yeah, yeah, with Afghanistan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that,
Where's the news coverage of that anniversary?
well, there wasn't any, and other
I'm
than
kidding.
other than Trump going to the
Yes.
Arlington to, you know, with the families of the 13
Yes.
kids that were killed there, you didn't hear a thing about it. So you know, he raised the flag, and he was the only one that did it. Yeah.
Well, I've talked to some people that, oh, go ahead, Paul, and then I'll say.
I'm just gonna, well, I was gonna go back to the previous conversation about Americans supporting Israel.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
our priest this last Sunday gave us a really incredible a sermon on why America has to support Israel. And he used the Bible as a guide. Israel is the land of God's people. And if we don't support God's people, then we probably aren't supporting God. And the scary thing about that is he's right. If you look at the church participation in this country and the appreciation of people for what in spite of Obama, this is a Christian nation. It was founded as a Judeo-Christian nation on Christian principles. As you may know, I'm teaching this biblical citizenship course, and they tell you how the Bible was used 34% of the time by our founders to create the Constitution and make us a republic. So we got to change the whole attitude here. I wrote a letter to one of my compadres here about the fact that I'm blaming a lot of our problems here in the States and our lack of religious fervor on the clergy being reticent because of the Johnson Amendment. Are you all familiar with the Johnson Amendment?
Yeah.
This is when Johnson was running for office. The local preachers in his area of Texas were railing against him. So he went to the IRS and had them change the 5013C ruling that if a preacher in a pulpit spoke politically, they would lose their tax exemption.
Yeah, a lot of them are afraid of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so in this day and age of falling congregations and falling income because of that, the clergy are afraid to interfere with the people in their congregation who may not think the same way they do. And they don't have the courage to tell their congregations, vote this way, not that way. This is Christian, this is bad. This is good, this is bad. And they're afraid to say it because they think they'll lose their 501c3 designation, the exemption. So we really need courage in the Black Robe Regiment. And I guess you've heard of the Black Robe Regiment too.
I have.
That was the clergymen during the Revolution who preached independence and rebellion and fighting tyranny. And the British called them the Black Robe Regiment because they felt they were as strong an army as any militia could be, because they were stirring up the people to fight against the oppression of the British government. And that's what we need more of now, is people who have in the position of leadership to tell their followers, let's do it, let's get it done.
Yeah, and you know, I told you guys about Amendment 4 being pushed in Florida to legalize 9-month abortion, right?
Yeah.
With any way you can get it, no holds barred, whatever you know. It's just really sad, and it's all worded to sound like, you know, like a puff piece, but it's not. And well, recently this week I came across the Archdiocese of Miami has come out to tell people to vote no on Amendment 4, which is great. And all the bishops in Florida have written a letter saying vote no on Amendment 4. And recently, just in the last week, outside the two biggest Catholic churches in the villages, they have signs now out on the street next to the church that says vote no on Amendment 4. So I think when it comes to the churches, there's no reason they can't disagree with policy. Okay, that policy is different than candidates. They should
Right.
stay away from supporting candidates, but policy they need to get involved. And I'm trying to get our church involved right now with this Amendment 4, trying to get them to take a stand and speak out on it, and maybe set up a table in the church where they can hand out information about it. Because people are blinded by the slick wording in this amendment that sounds like, it's not going to interfere with anything that's currently law, and it really is. And it's going into the Constitution and can't be changed by legislature. So it's not good. So
I think Paul brings up a good point. Something worth discussing is I do think many of the church leaders, whatever congregation or denomination they are, probably don't really understand the laws of what you just talked about, Don, that and there is a fear, I know that, for losing your tax exempt status. But if you do talk policy and not party or individual candidate, that is something that can be done. And even then, many churches don't want to stand up. And we know that, because of COVID, we know that because of a lot of different things that are going on. And but I think if the churches would more clearly teach correct principles, most people would govern themselves a little bit better, I think, and vote better.
absolutely. And when you think back about COVID, if church leaders really thought about what happened there, and that they were told they could not conduct services.
Yeah.
If they'd have thought about that real hard, they would have never complied with that.
Well, the thing is, I give them no excuses. They had time.
Yeah.
This isn't like the British are coming and you have a few hours to rally the troops
Right.
and make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
They had not only weeks, they had not only months, they were still complicit in a year in
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
to doing foolish things.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is almost universal. I mean, it was the great exception to see a congregation doing what they darn well wanted to do.
Yeah.
And act as adults.
And they use fear. They use fear to do it. They got people so scared of COVID. That.
But where's the unity of the churches? I mean,
yeah,
what are the
I
leaders
agree. Yeah.
that could have written Washington or
Yeah.
DC, written the president, and base or the governors, really, because it came down to a state issue more than federal. There was pressure from the federal government and guidelines, but and then the governors were just using that, and the school boards and the superintendents, they were all just, none of them wanted to take responsibility.
Yeah, they all became tyrants.
They all passed the buck. We're just doing what they told us to do.
I get to be a tyrant, so I'm gonna go with it, right?
And so no, I don't give them excuses. They had plenty of time, and they're not prepared. And if you're not prepared to lead, don't lead.
Yeah. No, that's exactly
Or
right.
step down so somebody else can. And again, I can't think, and as much as I love a lot of the conservative governors, there weren't, again, there weren't, even the best ones weren't very good.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, even DeSantis caved for a little while, and he finally came around. The only one that really didn't was Kristi Noem in South Dakota. Yeah, she held up strong. So.
Well, she held up strong, but again, even Kristi Noem, look, again, she didn't, as far as I know, did not call a special session of the legislature.
No.
She just unilaterally did it. And to me, that shows a lack of understanding of the true principles of Republican government.
Yeah. Well, I know everybody was up in arms in Arizona. We were up in arms when we lived there because Ducey didn't call a special session of the legislature. he just went and did what he did, right? And ignored it. So yeah, I know where you're coming from. So
No, I've had one article I've written go viral, and it is what Ducey should have said. This was in May of 2020.
I think you and I talked about that one time.
Yeah, yeah.
We discussed it. Yeah.
And yeah. So education. So that's what we're about here, trying to
Oh, that's
educate
right.
people
Yeah.
who will listen to us. Yeah.
So so getting back to the Middle East, I want to talk about this Israeli preemptive strike that they pulled off over the weekend. Now, reading about that in the Jerusalem Post, everybody thought it was good. They thought that they're kind of walking around with this cloud over their head about Iran threatening to attack them now, right? Because they killed the guy in Tehran. And so basically what it came down to, the decision to do what they did, was that they're sick of it. They're tired of holding the whole country hostage to this. Maybe they'll attack and maybe they won't.
Right.
So they just decided, and apparently Iran is, of course, using their proxies to do the dirty stuff, right? So they were getting Hezbollah all tanked up to do something, and Israel got a little bit of wind of it, and they went after them before they could do it. So that's kind of the view from what I read going on there. And so what have you guys heard or read? Anything? How about you, Bobby?
Well, I think that the Israelis feel like that Iran is of course calling the shots on all of this, and I think Israel is undecided as to exactly how to handle Iran. I think it's in the cards that there's going to be a major confrontation between Israel and Iran. And when the smoke settles, there's only going to be one country left. And I don't think these people are ever going to be able to coexist. They've tried it for what, 50, 60 years, and it hasn't worked out. Everybody knows it's got a head on their shoulders that Iran wants to exterminate Israel. They've been very vocal about it. They don't hem-haw around. And I think what's going to happen is eventually Iran and Israel are going to get in a life or death struggle. And all of this other stuff with Hezbollah and the Hamas is just a preliminary bouts. And I think our national leadership has been so very, very weak. If Biden was any kind of leader, when that deal happened in Israel in October of last year, he should have got on national TV and said, listen, the Hamas is supported by all the people in Gaza. They have supported them, they've hidden them, they've financed them, they've taken care of them. They're letting them use all the tunnels and their homes and the hospitals and the schools. And so they're all in bed together. And if Israel is going to defend itself, Israel is going to have to go after everybody in Gaza. And Israel told the people in Gaza, we're coming in and you better get out. And Hamas did not want the people in Gaza to leave because they wanted them all to get killed.
Oh yeah,
So they could run it on national. They wanted to run it on national TV, show all the babies, all the women crying and carrying on, and I can understand it. It's been a massive slaughter, but who's to blame for it? Hamas is to blame, and Israel has tried as much as possible, humanly possible, in a war to minimize civilian casualty. And we all know from real life that's almost useless. Look at Vietnam, what, 7 or 8 million people died in Vietnam?
Yeah.
And they were probably all innocent, but they're dead. And when you have all the people in Gaza that were openly supporting the Hamas and Hezbollah, Israel had no choice. And if we had any kind of leadership in this country, which we do not, our president should have gone on national TV and said, listen, all these people in Gaza are in bed together with Hamas, and Israel has no choice but to attack and take out Gaza. And if those people want to play games with Israel and just sit there and get bombed, then who's to blame? And so this is a life and death struggle. And I don't you can throw politics in it, or you can throw in humanitarian concerns, but there's not going to be anybody victorious if they throw in the towel. And Israel knows that. And Israel knows they've got to destroy Hamas, and possibly they'll have to destroy Hezbollah. And eventually they're probably going to have to destroy Iran. So what's going on is the early stages of the Third World War. And the only question right now is the United States going to get pulled into it?
So I wanted to tell you that, and I told Paul and Jeff last week that I found an article where the guy that created the Republican Guard in Iran, he lives in the United States. He moved here 20 years ago. And his theory right now is that when the Israelis killed that guy in Tehran, they just shocked everybody. They shocked Iran, and they shocked the Russians, and they shocked the whatever they call the mullah, or whatever they call the guy that runs the country now over there in Iran. And they don't know quite what to do now.
Ayatollah.
Yeah. They're a little bit afraid to tangle with Israel right now, because they just are taken back that they were able to go into their capital and kill that guy. And they were having the big ceremony there for the new president, right? I mean, everybody was in town for the party, and that's when Israel chose to go in there and kill the guy. So nobody knows quite sure how they did it. There was a lot of rumors about planning a bomb in the hotel, but it appears they delivered probably a Hellfire missile through the guy's hotel window that killed him. And somehow they got an airplane in there, and the Russians were surprised because they have supposedly provided Iran with all their latest air defense. Well, it didn't seem to matter much on that day. So anyway, just to let you know that this guy believes that Iran is not anxious to tangle with Israel. And they said they can fire a lot of rockets into Israel, but Israel can mount an air attack on them that they can't stop, and they can't do anything about. So just to let you know that there is a little bit of deterrence working now. Now, the other thing I heard is that according to Kamala Harris, speaking for the administration the other day, she made a big comment about, well, if Iran should attack Israel, they would stand by Iran. We would help Israel fight that battle. But then she went on to praise Hamas and say all the right words, the humanitarian suffering and everything else. So you never know where they're really coming from. Whether they'll really do what they say they'll do, you don't know. So anyway, I just wanted to update you on that. Go ahead.
I think I read somewhere that somebody who would know indicated that Iran doesn't have the capability to prosecute a war with Israel.
Right.
It can fire some missiles and et cetera, but it can't mount a real war where you have to put in tanks and people on the ground and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
They don't have the logistics. And so that may not be the issue that we have to worry about right at this moment.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and it appears that way because they've been talking about retaliating since I think they killed the guy on July 31st, I think. So it's been,
3 weeks.
They promised action in a few days, and it's been almost a month now. So
But I wonder if the Russians and the Chinese, you know, they would probably benefit with things exploding in the Middle East to take attention off of some of their aggressive behavior, you know, Russia and Ukraine, and then China making saber rattling over.
I haven't heard any Chinese scuttlebutt about Middle East, so I don't know, but I guess that's possible. You know, you get somebody looking the other way, you know.
Right.
I
But the
mean,
problem is,
we're not capable of fighting a war against Russia, China,
no,
and in the Middle East at the same time. I don't care what the generals say. We can't do that. That's not going to happen, especially China, which is an ocean and a half away, right?
yeah.
I mean, they got the whole advantage over Taiwan. So I don't know how we'd even handle that, honestly, because they're right there. They're like, I don't know, they're within 100 miles of Taiwan, and we're thousands of miles away. So, you know, very difficult. And we don't right now. I saw a military report where we have no carriers right now in the Pacific Ocean, none.
Wow.
All of our carriers are tied up in the Atlantic and over in the middle. I think we
Wow.
got 3 carriers alone in the Middle East. So yeah, we have no aircraft carriers in the Pacific right now. Don't know if you guys heard that or not.
I'm not aware of that, but I do know that our military is on edge right now because they know between now and mid-January, you know, there's some possible opportunities for our adversary to make ground. And so it is a dangerous time. It's not to be alarmist, but it is for people to understand. Yeah, people at the highest levels of our military are definitely have their spidey senses up.
Oh yeah,
It's
if you're in a base, and you know, if you're over in Syria or you know, over there even in Iraq still, any of those countries, you know, you're vulnerable. And we've already had some guys killed in Syria and Iraq. So, you know, by Iranian backed rebels or whatever you want to call them. So, yeah, it's a very difficult situation. But right now, I've come to believe after reading and looking at everything that Iran's a little bit afraid of Israel right now. They're willing to kind of poke them a little bit and let Hezbollah throw them some rockets and there, but they're not anxious to take them on full bore now.
Well, which would also tell you if we supported them 100% rather than the lukewarm delaying arms shipments and one hand tied behind their backs, you know, I think things could get straightened out pretty quick.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And
That's absolutely true. Yeah. You remember back in I still have to recall, you know, General Patton and General MacArthur, right? Neither one of those guys was really anxious for war, but if war came, those were the guys you want leading the troops,
right?
Because it was all hell bent to win. You know, you don't go into a war losing. I'm thinking about losing. You're going in to win, and you fight to win, and you do what you have to do to win. And that was the biggest mistake we made in Vietnam and Korea, right? We did it in Korea, and then we turned around and did it in Vietnam. And I mean, Paul was over there fighting his heart out, and I was there. And, you know, we just didn't want to do what we had to do. And I remember when the Vietnamese wouldn't come to the table for peace negotiations. And I was there when we launched Linebacker 2 on them up to North Vietnam, sent the B-52s up there, and within a week they were back at the table signing the peace treaty.
Right.
So you can't tell me that strength doesn't hold a candle to doing the right thing, because you've got to, when you're fighting a war, you got to go after them. You got to do it. Okay, and there's no nice way to do it. You know, there just isn't.
We also need to remember that Eisenhower said in front of many other generals about Patton, that man is not fit to command.
Mm-hmm.
And he did not like Patton. And
Yeah,
a
I
lot
know
of
he
other
didn't.
people
Oh,
didn't
yeah, I
like
know.
Patton.
Yeah.
And he went, and he superseded. Patton was a higher rank than he was prior to World War II.
Mhm.
But Eisenhower got the promotion because he was trusted more by Marshall and Roosevelt.
Yeah.
But having said that, Patton was a disruptor, but who became our best general? I mean, who is the only general in the American side that the Germans stood up and paid attention to?
Oh, yeah. He was the
Like,
one.
okay, that's Patton.
Yeah.
I mean, reputation matters. And, you look at the Civil War, you hear some of these comments by, you have Union generals ordering other lower generals or colonels to attack Stonewall Jackson's command in the Western Theater. And they're like, I'm not going over there. Reputation matters.
Yeah.
Because they knew he had a big sting. And right now, the United States, we have a big stinger, but we're sure not
Right.
being very clear. And when signals are mixed like that, confusion breaks out, and that's what we've got.
And you talk about the Civil War, Jeff. I don't remember the name of the general that Lincoln replaced. In the
McAuliffe,
Civil- Huh?
General McAuliffe.
General McAuliffe. Yeah,
Well, McClellan.
McClellan. Yeah, he
McClellan.
he said he was a good general, but he didn't know when to fight.
Right.
He just didn't have that thing in him to know when to go to battle and when not to.
Right.
And so he replaced him with Grant. Right.
Right. Well, we had a lot in between. We had, McClellan and Pope, and then Hooker, and Burnside before Hooker, and
Mhm.
Hooker, and then Meade, and then Grant came over.
Yeah.
So there was certainly a lot in there, and he finally kept with Grant because he was willing to fight.
Yeah.
So when Grant took a big hit, he didn't retreat, lick his wounds, and wait till the next spring to do something.
Yeah.
He took a hit,
Exactly.
regrouped immediately, and kept the pressure on.
Well, and in World War II, I think one of Patton's greatest accomplishment is he rescued those guys at the Battle of the Bulge that were
Right.
surrounded and trapped, and he was the only one that said it. That, they all sat around at the table and kind of looked at each other. What are we going to do? And Patton says, "I'll be up there in 2 days or something."
He
And they all
did.
kind of looked at him and said, "What?" He says, "I don't take ground twice." Right? They were talking about retreating, and he wasn't about to do that. So.
Well, if you guys haven't read, I would recommend or rereading. When I was a kid, I read Patton's War as I Knew It. I mean, I was like 12. And really, and my dad went to show me the Patton movie in the late 70s,
Yeah.
in a drive-in movie theater.
Right.
And I just loved studying him. But if you go back, and anybody listening could go back and give Patton's speech on going into France with the Third Army. It's pretty moving. It'll get goosebumps up on you.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
And when he gave the speech, everybody was like, that was a little too over the top.
Yeah.
But the men, it got them motivated.
Well,
And
they have to believe they can run through the wall, right?
Yeah.
It's like, and I don't want to compare football to war, but football is a brutal sport, and a coach has to convince his players, they got to be able to run through the wall, right? There's a mental wall that you hit, and you've got to overcome that and run through that and push through that. I'm sure you see that every day, Jeff, when you're training these Navy SEAL guys and these Special Forces guys. They are able
Hard
to run
chargers.
through that wall. Yeah, hard chargers.
Hard chargers,
Yeah,
sure.
So, well, anything else going on in the Middle East we need to talk about?
There was a tanker that was attacked by the Houthis,
Oh yeah, I did see that. Yeah.
and it's burning or something like that. And there were 2 Russians and 26 Filipinos as the crew. If you want to understand, they've abandoned the ship, and the Houthis are threatening anybody that tries to come in and put the fire out. So that's kind of going on. They're worried about blocking the straits there. and B, the pollution that's gonna happen if that boat goes down with 1 million gallons of oil in it.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah, I know, I did see something about that, and it's really interesting. I don't think they'd been attacking any oil tankers until this.
Yeah,
They kind of went after container ships and bulk, bulk ships like grain and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, maybe they didn't know the Russians were on board. I don't know.
Well,
don't
the
wanna-
problem is if you don't, and I don't think we should be the policemen of the world, but there's also got to be laws and shipping laws and international
Oh,
law
yeah, there are. Yeah,
because,
sure.
the Western societies have let other infractions pass.
Yep.
Lincoln talked about that. If you don't, it's kind of like the broken glass theory. If you don't enforce, some of the smaller issues or even larger issues, then those who think about being unlawful and illegal, if the other ones aren't getting punished, they're like, hey, they're getting away with it. So it encourages action.
Sure. And all that stuff shipped through that area goes to Europe.
Yes.
We don't get any of that stuff. It all goes to Europe, So do you think they'd be more interested in the EU and the NATO countries? They'd be more interested in being down there and defending that, that right to go through that strait. But I know they kind of gave a minimal little effort. I don't know if they have people down there now or not. Most of the effort down there was us. I don't know if you guys knew this or not. We were using $3 million standard missiles to shoot down $200,000 drones,
Yeah.
so, which didn't make any sense to me at all. But yeah, and I don't know how many of those things we used, but we used a lot of them.
Yes.
So, not that it's not capable of doing that, but it wasn't built. SM-3 wasn't built to do that. So. Well, it's good to see all you guys. I don't know if you want to talk about anything else on your minds. I'd sort of like to get into next week, immigration a little bit.
Sure. I did
Um,
want to mention one thing.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I think Tulsi Gabbard endorsing Trump is a bigger deal than most people realize. I have some friends that are never Trumpers and, are just saying that, they could never vote for Trump. But I've texted them today and emailed and called. I haven't had a response back, but I'm like, look, even Tulsi Gabbard, okay?
Yeah.
When she's endorsing Trump, it really goes to show you we should be able to reach out to moderates. And, RFK was one, and that's really great also.
Mm-hmm.
But this should be a big enough umbrella, I would think, to get people. And I just think we need to point that out to some of our, but some of the never Trump friends really are never Trumpers.
No, that's really, yeah, I agree with you. And I think another one you got to mention is Elon Musk.
Yes.
I don't think that's a small thing either. Now, I don't think Trump doesn't think he's going to be part of his cabinet because he's too busy doing.
Right. He's doing other things.
But he can be some kind of, he can be an advisor or a consultant to some of the things they're doing. So, but Elon Musk is big too. So, and Twitter, owning Twitter.
I think one of the other things we ought to keep in mind is the Romney, McCain, Bush subordinates who are throwing their hat in with Kamala. 200 of them signed letters saying they can't support Trump. They're going to back Kamala.
My goodness.
Yeah.
I didn't know Bush did that.
I think it was Bush's people, McCain and Romney. I'd have to go look. I can't confirm Bush, but I know it was Romney and McCain.
Not surprised by Romney, but
yeah.
And
McCain's, I guess that would be his
daughter.
Wife, right? Or daughter.
Yeah.
Daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that doesn't hold a lot of water. I don't know how you guys will have to tell me how big they are still in Arizona. Are they going to be the difference in Kari Lake's election, or are they going to vote for her? Has Ducey come out and supported Kari Lake, or he's come out and supported Trump now?
Ducey has I think Ducey said he was going, well, no, Ducey said he was gonna support, yeah, Kerry Lake, he
Oh,
did.
okay, well, maybe that'll bring some of the McCains around then, the
Yeah.
McCain people. That should help some of them, but no, I'm not surprised by Romney.
Yeah.
Romney is, you know, when Romney ran, he did such a good job in the first debate, and then the second debate, he totally choked. And then when the election was over, he came out and said, "Well, I really didn't want to run." I said, "What? Really? You know, I mean, you really didn't want to run, and you spent all that money? Come on." So yeah, he told his sons he really didn't want to run, but he went ahead and did it. So you know, if you really don't want to win, don't run, right?
Yeah.
That's the difference between him and Trump. I mean, Trump came down that escalator. He was determined to win. He didn't even think about losing. You know, everybody
have
else
to
did,
tell
but he
you,
didn't.
I have to tell you real quick, I was at the Freedom Fest in Las Vegas when Trump gave his second speech after he came down the elevator
Mm,
in the July of 2015. He gave a speech at Freedom Fest. You can look it up, you know, at one of the casinos in Las Vegas. And the guy was sitting next to, after the crowd reacted at a libertarian event, and he was not known as a libertarian. And sometimes libertarians are pretty tough on, you know, if you're not a libertarian,
oh
get
yeah,
out.
yeah.
But he had like a standing ovation. And the guy next to me, I mean, this was early, so there was a lot of people. And he said he's going to be the nominee for the Republican side. And I was like, no, there's no way. But yes,
Yeah.
you know, so you could see how he connected with the group he was speaking to.
Yep.
It was very, very interesting.
Yeah. And he went back to the libertarians just a few months ago,
Yeah.
right?
Well, that's the thing. Instead of just inviting people under the tent,
Mhm.
he's trying to expand that tent.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's very smart. And that's
Yeah.
why I was really kind of excited to see Tulsi Gabbard come in. I
Well,
really was.
people in their minds mentally, they've got to overcome these phony polls that they're throwing out there, because I just don't believe any of the polls. I know they're weighted. I know they weight all their polls with Democrats. The only one that's reasonable is Rasmussen, who polls likely voters, not registered voters, right? They poll likely voters, which makes a big difference in polls.
Right.
And their balance of Republicans, Democrats, Independents is more balanced, you know, where the phony polls, I call them, you know, the fake polls, they poll to get the answer they want, right? And right now the answer they want is that Kamala's winning and there's nothing we can do about it, and it's a done deal, just like they told us about Hillary, right? Same thing. So
Well, and I don't want to drag this on, but the her not having a serious interview
yeah.
in a month and a half.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Can
it's
you
just,
believe it?
come on, people.
Well, I don't know if you heard, Jeff. She has agreed to sit down with ABC, of course, which is their biggest suck-up network.
I
And-
mean,
But she's going to sit down with her VP guy. She's not going to sit down alone.
I just don't know how the American people.
Yeah.
I
don't
do not
either.
get it.
Yeah.
I
She
don't
doesn't
get it.
believe anything she's saying now. You know, so she hasn't done anything she said she's going to do, and she's got to explain why she's been there 3.5 or almost 4 years, and
Yes.
you know, and she's part of this calamity. So
Yeah.
So we got to make people realize that, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So okay, well, I'll let you guys go. Thanks for coming on this week.
Hey, good seeing everybody.
Good seeing you guys
Yeah.
too.
I will not be on in 2 weeks, just so everybody knows.
Okay, well,
Next week, yes.
should we do a different day or?
No, I'm gone. I'm teaching in Gettysburg all
Oh,
week.
okay. All right.
Yeah, so I'll be gone that
Okay,
week.
Jeff, we'll miss you. But
Trying to give you a 2 weeks heads up
No,
so
we'll
you
plan
can
on
find
that.
a guest.
what I was trying to do was set up an immigration session, because there's so much to talk about in that, especially about the illegal aliens voting in our elections, right?
Yeah.
And so much going on there. And I was going to try. I don't know if you know I know Bobby knows him, and I think Paul do you know Zach
Zach.
Taylor, Jeff?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No, I don't.
Zach is a retired border patrol that lives in Rio Rico.
Oh, cool.
And he'll have a lot to say about it, and he'll
Yeah,
help
well,
us discuss it. So
Yeah.
if I can get him, I'm not sure I can get him on Wednesdays. I tried to get him to replace Bobby last week, but he couldn't do it on Wednesday. He had some kind of testing going on. So anyway, I'll see what I can work out, and we'll press on. So anyway, thanks all you
All right,
guys.
gentlemen, we'll see you next week.
God bless you all. Thanks to the audience. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the little bell. You get notifications of when we got to show up. It should be Friday night. And you all take care.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.